The American dream has a powerful message. Work hard in this country and you will be rewarded. But of course that's far from the truth. The gap between top and bottom in American society is huge and growing, and a poor child's chance of making a better life than their parents is amongst the lowest in the developed world. On the final leg of my education road trip, I'm heading back east to learn about this rising inequality and whether American schools are part of the solution or part of the problem. This stretch of water has been crossed by millions of immigrants hoping to build a better life for themselves in America. And I'm sailing towards the landmark that signalled journey's end. Every day, thousands of people come to marvel at the symbol of the American dream. 80% of Americans still believe that even the poorest person has the opportunity to become rich here. But those marvelling at the Statue of Liberty today weren't so optimistic about the opportunities available in their state school system. Do you think America is still the land of opportunity when it comes to the public school system?
No, not the way it used to be.
No, needs more funding.
It varies depending on where you are. You know, certain areas are better than others.
The statistics say that America's urban schools are struggling. So are all American kids getting the opportunities they deserve? I'm in New York to find out. New York is a city of extremes, home to the enormously rich and the very poor, those trying to make it and those who already have. And those extremes are reflected in education too. Kids in the inner city schools are not achieving. Half the students in New York City don't finish high school. To understand one of the possible causes, I'm on my way out of town to an area where children expect opportunity to come to them. I'm travelling up to Westchester, a short drive northeast of Manhattan. It's an area which exhibits none of the symptoms of urban struggle. You can't beat a good bit of full 18th century English architecture surrounded by lovely woodland. Even the tramps around here probably have sports jacket and tie on. This is the exclusive suburb of Scarsdale and the state-run Scarsdale High School, which shouts elegance and excellence. School has just finished, so I've come to meet James Steinow, a final year student with a deep interest in state education. You're not James by any chance, are you? James took me on a tour of the building. This place is a product of the way that school funds are raised here in the States.
The science room was recently renovated.
A large proportion of that money comes from local property taxes, which creates its own form of inequality. Wealthy areas have wealthy schools. This is extraordinary as a space.
Yeah.
Most public libraries in towns would kill to look this good.
I know. It's the parents pay high taxes. The average income in Scarsdale for a family is over $200,000. So, you know, parents don't get off easy. It's what they wanted to do. They put themselves in this situation. They wanted to be in an environment where everybody else cares so much about education. So we get access and experiences to things that most kids dream of.
The funding in the school is the equivalent of £12,000 per pupil each year, over twice the average spent on inner city kids. Okay. The whole place feels rather more like a university than a high school, which is no accident.
It's set up in almost a college style.
Everybody here is kind of focused on college as opposed to living here and getting a job.
I mean, close to 99% of students go on to college. It's not just getting to college, but getting to the best colleges, getting to the Ivy Leagues. And it's preparing students to face the real world outside of high school.
Ivy League colleges are the real world?
Well, to Scarsdale parents, it's the real world. It's the only world, actually.
But James has an insight into the real world of education that many of his school friends don't, through a placement with a campaign group in the inner city.
I saw schools in Brooklyn and, in Harlem that were totally different, and they don't get anything that Scarsdale students have, and it has to do with a lot of funding issues. There are 35 kids in a classroom in Harlem, and that's just, it's not fair for those students and they don't have the same opportunity to succeed. The city is only 20 miles away, but it's a million miles apart.
The next morning, James and I headed downtown to Brooklyn, an urban area with its fair share of problem schools. He's visiting the Bushwick School campus to continue his work on education funding and to meet people with a very different experience of state education.
I'm hoping to have a student forum with several students from Bushwick and several students from Scarsdale and to talk about the differences and discrepancies in their educational experiences.
Well, it's brilliant that there's you as a student are reaching out to connect with other students rather than a kind of senior management school initiative. I mean, I guess there's plenty of those knocking around. The reception wasn't quite as warm as it had been in Scarsdale. Inside the door, we were met by men with guns.
You can't film this. You can't know.
Excuse me.
What do you want the landline?
We're just a very secure school. We have certain rules.
We all have to sign by.
The camera will not be allowed in the building.
I thought we had a hard time going through the metal detectors and the armed security guards at the airport coming into the States, but in this school they've got exactly the same heavy-duty security. This custodial-style establishment used to be one enormous high school with 5,000 pupils, 70% of them failing to graduate. The city set out to improve things. They closed it down and have now created 4 new schools in the same building.
I'm James.
This is James. James is here to meet Janelle Lahoz, a final year student who campaigns on school funding issues.
It would probably be at the end of May.
Despite the problems here, the amount the system puts into Janelle's education remains about half that spent on James. James has been in urban schools before, but never one quite like this.
The first thing I noticed when I walked in, they have a scanning machine and they're armed, and I think, I've been so sheltered in like a small community like Scarsdale. And
my first day of class, just imagine,
Yeah.
you just came from junior high school, you're still like a baby, you're like 13 or whatever. I was just like, if I'm gonna have to go through this every day, I don't ever want to go to this school anymore.
Right.
The schools here don't have the same income as Scarsdale. They also don't enjoy the same high level of parental support.
How involved are parents in their children's education?
Most of my friends' parents have 2 jobs in order to maintain them. A lot of them don't have parents. A lot of them just have one parent, a single parent struggling with them. I mean, they try their best, but sometimes their best is not enough, unfortunately. And I also have a lot of friends that their parents just don't care.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends got lost in gang life and drug life, and it's hard now that I'm graduating, and it's sad because they won't walk with me.
That's just the polar opposite, of where I come from. Yeah, I mean, there's probably 100% graduation rate and like a 99% college rate.
Yeah, and it's sad because it all comes down to the basis of money and who has more money.
Yeah.
And it's not like our education. Our education is not the focus of this. It's who pays higher taxes.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
James is now planning a trip for Janelle so she can see where the money goes at Scarsdale. But I wondered whether educational success or failure was ultimately determined by money. How does it stack up in terms of influence of your education, money or parents? Which one's the biggest?
Money. Definitely money. Because as much as your parents want you to have the best education money can buy, it's how much their money can buy. It's almost survival of the fittest. You know, it's first come, first serve. You know, it's like that. You just have to take care of yourself because that's the way it is here.
Brooklyn, baby.
The determined individual in a poor area is always going to be fighting against the odds without help. But the American tradition of the great private benefactor can create opportunities in the most unexpected places. I'm on my way across town to Harlem, another area suffering from low educational achievement. Only a third of students in its worst schools graduate, and those few that might reach college can't afford the fees. I've come to this public housing block to meet a family who 3 years ago suddenly found their prospects transformed by the arrival of a financial angel. Hello. Hi, Maria.
Hi,
how are you doing? I'm Peter. Nice to meet you. Maria Morales is a single mother with 2 children.
The farmers pick the...
In September 2004, Maria went with her daughter Gabriella and the rest of her school year to a mysterious event at the Apollo Theatre.
Are from seeds.
The unassuming man who took the stage was multi-millionaire hedge fund manager George Weiss, and he put on quite a show.
I remember like if it was yesterday, because there was a big banner over this stage that said, "Say yes to education." Then I got this announcement from George Weiss. He announced I chose 5 public schools in Harlem, 400 kindergarten students, and I'm paying for full paid scholarships to college for these children. And then the news reporters came out and everyone came out to take pictures, and mothers and fathers were standing up applauding him. And
what did you feel when you heard those words?
I was in shock. I believe he was an angel sent to me and my family.
It was an extraordinary offer. Weiss had singled out 5 Harlem schools and was prepared to pay the college fees for every single one of their 400 kindergarten children who graduated high school. College fees that could run into hundreds of thousands of dollars per pupil. That offer has transformed Maria's relationship with school.
As a parent, I have to make sure she succeeds, because I personally would feel I would let a lot of people down. And it's not just myself, my family, and my daughter. It's like an extended family, the Say Yes to Education program. And I feel it's a group effort.
The program isn't just about educating the children, though. Maria's now got her own homework.
This is my portfolio from school.
All right.
I got a 95.
Fantastic, wow.
Yeah.
She's begun a 2-year course to become an ultrasound scan operator, and the Weiss program has already paid her first-year fees of $10,000. For Maria, at least, the land of opportunity is starting to live up to its name.
I want my children to see that, if you set your mind to something and just keep going straight forward, you can accomplish anything, you want to be. You can just do whatever you want to do.
The millionaire who cared set up the Say Yes to Education program in 1987. He can be found upmarket, downtown.